Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Not a lot. What's up with you? Anything interesting?
Not really. I just got back from vacation.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So I could ask you what's been going around the office these past couple of weeks as Beta 5's been happening and this whole UI overhaul, and it wouldn't be any help whatsoever.
It would. I was only on vacation for like 5 days.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's not all that long then.
A lot of stuff has been going on. Our UI team is trying to obviously get everything sort of polished up and changed into the new UI system we're using. That's been a big thing for them. Team-wise, like what we've been doing as a whole, we've been doing some interesting stuff just because, Soren's been sort of working remotely for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been pretty cool because before he left, he sort of gave us, the permission to mess around with some gameplay ideas, and we've been exploring a lot of stuff with, some things we could do to the different colonies or headquarters, I should say.
Yeah.
And how we can make them more interesting and different from each other. I've sort of always felt that robotic could use a little bit of help in terms of the multiplayer game. I think they can be pretty strong depending on the map, but because they're so map dependent, I feel like there's some, they could get some love and definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the community would agree with that for the most part. So you guys have been doing interesting things with them lately, of course.
Yeah, and we've been playing with some ways to correct that and ways to make them more exciting. One of the ideas that I had, we actually implemented in our internal build, and I've been playing with it, and it seems pretty promising. So I don't want to say anything too much about it yet because we're not sure which direction it's going to go in, and I wouldn't want to say, hey, we're going to do this, and then have it just get ripped out before anyone even sees it.
For sure, understandable.
Yeah, it's something that we're definitely addressing. Just across the board, making the game more streamlined, more polished, and I guess just all in all, trying to get it to a point where it's a harder decision about which headquarters to actually be. Yeah, so that it's like they all seem really good, and you almost don't know which one to pick because of that. I'm a big fan of that sort of gameplay model where it's a tough decision because they're all great, not because like one of them stands out and the others are bad, or you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Not like
so
it used to be.
Yeah, so we're trying to push things more in that direction, which I think will be great.
Sounds good. I think a lot of people would be on board with more colony diversity throughout the game, because there are differences, but for some of them they're kind of mild differences. Like robotic and expansive honestly started out, it felt like, and I think this is why most people think robotic was bad back then, or might think it's still bad now, I don't really know. But this idea of, well, robotic and expansive are pretty similar. It's just robotic consumes electronics and expansive gets way more claims. So
yeah, that's always like for us and for myself personally, it's a tough decision to make about like what to do with expansive, because they get more claims, but the thing that we wrestle with here about, like when we play multiplayer games in the office, like it's pretty seldom that people pick them because they get more claims, but they also require so much life support, and getting steel production going requires iron claims and so on and so forth. So you almost end up using those claims just because of how they work, rather than using them for something more exciting.
It's true.
So I would say right now the most frequently picked are scavengers and scientific.
That doesn't really surprise me much.
Yeah, which seems to be the case in the community as well. So I think just that's why we're looking at them and trying to figure out what exactly to do with each faction to make them more interesting and more playable in the community.
Makes sense. Because I think expansive, the primary reason people like expansive, or the benefit they'll use with expansive the most from what I've seen, is, I mean, the claims are nice, but like you were saying, you need those claims to kind of set up steel production for them anyway, if you want steel at all. Sometimes you can skip steel in a 6-man game because there are 4 scientists, and that's great. Perfect for you. Absolutely wonderful. But the thing I see more is just the whole, I get half-price steel on my Offworlds.
Right.
And that's just And that's the thing that really blows you out of the water is expensive. But I don't know, is that enough to really make them interesting? Or is there any interest even in making them more interesting? Or is there more this idea of we want to keep this as a baseline, as a simple kind of starting colony that is still strong, but is easier to understand? You know what I mean?
And that's the risk with like making things too complicated or too deep. Just across the board, is that you do want to have that baseline sort of vanilla faction that people can jump in and start learning the game with.
Exactly.
Where it is more straightforward. And, with somebody like Robotic, it can be like, if you picked Robotic as your first faction when you first were learning to play the game, it'd be pretty tough because, a lot of the gameplay concepts are that you need the life support and you need to get your whole production base going. With Robotic, you don't really need to make any of that stuff. So you can make some mistakes early on that can screw you later in the game.
Right.
And it can be kind of punishing, if you don't know what you're doing. For
sure. Robotic, definitely a bit of a challenging faction for most people, I would imagine, right now. Especially because a lot of people are still struggling with what does Robotic do these days,
Right. And that's why we're trying to figure out ways to bolster them.
Right.
And make them more interesting. And I think we have a pretty decent idea on how to do that, and we've been playing with it, and it seems to be working pretty well. So
sounds good. I'll probably use my privileges to go poke around and see what it is myself later, but that's fine. Oh man. So is there anything you'd like to do with the stream today? Do you wanna play some games? Do you wanna talk about stuff more? Do you wanna do some campaign? I don't really know. I mean,
I think we should definitely play some games because otherwise we'll just be staring at the menu.
Exactly.
Or we could just be doing a podcast.
Well, I mean, I can sit here and talk about Offworld design for hours, but I know a lot of people can't, so that's fine. So do we want to just host like a simple little multiplayer? Do we want to do teams? Do you have any interest whatsoever? I'll let you drive things because I'm here every week. So.
So last time I hosted this stream was probably a few weeks ago, and I chose to do the team games only because I feel like out of our modes right now, it's pretty underdeveloped, and I wanted to get some feedback from the community about, what would you like to see in a team game, aside from the fact that we don't have any sort of communication in the game right now, which we're well aware of.
For sure.
And that hurts it pretty bad. But just things with the UI, like, it would be great if, sharing worked this way or that way. I had some ideas for, using like pings on the map just to like notify your teammate of things that are going on. And currently, we don't have anything like that. But I was doing team games for that purpose, to sort of see what people would like to see out of a team game. Right. I don't know. Have you played the team games much, or?
Last week we spent basically the whole time playing team games, like myself, Dorian, and Soren.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting, and that's the most I've played teams lately, like even the past couple months. Just because, like you've said, with the whole communication thing, I love the idea of teams in this game. I'm really interested in even maybe having a 2v2 ladder sort of thing happen, because I think that could be really interesting. But I just haven't played it much because, like you've been talking about, the whole communication thing. I'm basically sitting back waiting for the UI update. But we did do a lot of teams last week, so you might go watch that at some point if you're really interested in team stuff, because there was a lot of stuff going on there.
I caught the tail end of it. One thing I'm curious about is, like, what have you thought about the new black market stuff?
I like a lot of the ideas behind the new black market items, personally. But my particular opinion about it, and I know we've got some people in chat who might express different opinions here and such, but I like the idea behind a lot of the new black market stuff, but a lot of it feels like is lower impact per thing purchased than a lot of the old black market stuff. So I really like this idea that Soren put in as kind of, at least as a stopgap, maybe not a permanent solution, but this idea of you can buy holograms whenever you want, and it's unaffected by your cooldown. Right. Or you can buy, and same thing with spies, I believe, and maybe auctions. Yes, auctions as well, because I totally ruined a game like that at one point.
Right.
Made people very upset, but and so I like that basic idea tossed in, but I do feel like they're lower impact, and so when the black market deck, I guess, is full of them, you have a very low impact black market, and I kind of wonder if that should always be the case. I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. And I like it when black market is a bit more high impact, personally.
I agree with you. One of the things that we ran into last week, we played a game, and we had a situation where there was like one really great founding spot on the map, and Dorian and someone else founded on it. His teammate, whoever that happened to be. I think it might have been.
It was, I believe, GameSlayer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it might have been GameSlayer. So like, they found it in a great spot, and then the black market, the random roll on it, there were no resource bombs, and like within like 20 seconds of the game starting, I was like, game's over. That's
true.
It. Like
and
they
won.
Yeah, and it was, and they just completely rolled. And I think that that's sort of a problem. Like, you never want that situation to happen where the game's decided that fast, and there's nothing anyone else could do about it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think like the random roll stuff is great, but it's also, sometimes you need resource bombs and other things like that to be equalizers when a map like that comes along. So, all right. Well, I'm all ready to go. You're playing on the public build, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's where we are right now.
Okay, cool. If you want to just put a lobby up, and you can make it team, you can make it, just versus whatever. I don't care.
All right. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger because apparently we have people lurking around right now.
Okay.
But I made a quick 4-man and it instantly filled up. So it's just like, we'll just make a 6-man. That's fine for now, I guess.
That sounds good.
But it should be up at this point.
I am joining it now. Yeah, I've sort of always been in Soren's ear about, I think that the random maps are awesome and it's a great thing to have. But I'm always like, it seems like so much of winning the game is determined by those the first minute or two and where you found.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out ways to, correct that, whether through black market or other means.
Yeah, for sure.
Is always something that I'm interested in.
And I think that's the biggest reason the black market needs to be there in a lot of ways,
right.
Just to give people that necessary interaction so that initial found doesn't decide the whole thing.
But the other thing we've found, the other side of that coin, is just that it can also be a terrible thing in that, if you have somebody that's just trying to grief somebody, then they can permanently cripple them like a minute into the game, and then it just sort of ruins the whole game.
It's true.
So it's a tough thing to figure out and balance.
For sure.
It can go either way.
All right. You ready to go ahead and get started on this one?
Yeah.
So I know it'll be a lot harder to talk once we're actually in game, so I want to make sure you were good to go.
Yeah. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah. I can hear you all right.
Let's make sure.
All right. Well, we got a scientific location, that's for sure.
Yeah. This map looks pretty decent.
It looks all right.
Yeah, there's a lot of water.
There's a lot of water. That's one way to put it. Yeah, there's kind of some water out in some places, I guess.
Lots of water.
If you're into that, I don't know.
We'll see how that shakes out.
I wonder if I can get away with that. I want to do something stupid this game, I think. Nope, not going to get away with it. Now all of them are taken because I waited too long. That's fine. Alright, then maybe I'll just do something else stupid.
What were you shooting for?
Exactly. I wanted a particular, like the iron aluminum spot in particular. Oh, tell you what, this guy went ahead and did this. I'm just going to do something real dumb.
So when you're playing, since you've been playing a while, do you generally stick to a strategy, or do you try to sort of explore new ways of playing, or what's your position with that?
I usually... lately, because I haven't had as much time to play, I've been more sticking to a strategy. When I can get away with it, though, I prefer to do new, stupid things. Like, at one point, just to try it out in a multiplayer game, I threw down scientific and just threw down 2 glass furnaces instantly, just to see what would happen.
Right.
Don't do that, for the record.
What did you find happened when you did that? Just out of curiosity.
I just didn't have anything. Like the glass furnaces, because they rely on oxygen in particular, even as scientific, where I was ignoring the. Trying to think of how to put this. I was ignoring that silicon cost, right? Because scientific. But it just wasn't. It wasn't quite enough, I suppose.
Right.
Because that oxygen cost was still there, and it was still a serious effect. And like glass is one of those weird things where one or two people making glass can really tank that price pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because it's not actually a whole lot of it that gets used. It's just it starts kind of high, and a lot of people consume some of it immediately as the game starts, and they get up to like HQ level 3. But after that, it really falls off.
Yeah.
Oh,
one of the things that I'd be curious to see is like, so we have like a really random market as the game goes, just because of the way people play and what they're doing. I would be kind of curious to see what it would be like if the resources all started at different prices every game. So, you know, like maybe you did have some games where glass was a lot cheaper to begin with or something like that.
Yeah, and I think at least maybe some mild variation tossed in there could be interesting. Obviously, you can't go too ridiculous with it, but you can do something. I hate Herbert. Herbert's who I'm trying to knock out of the game now. This is going to be my goal. Just everything.
Did he just ruin your spot?
Oh, he just put down farms. I already had... I might be Clark. This game. And I already had down farms. The jerk.
Yeah.
But maybe this game I can get away with doing other stupid things. Okay. Huh.
Yeah, it's sort of a like one thing with RTSs, you know, is obviously there seems to always be like a build order that you want to do, and we're sort of trying to avoid that being the case with this game. Like we wanted it to be a lot more open-ended, and some of the ways that things have just shaken out have made it less like that. Just, you know, you kind of need to build stuff in a certain order or you start to fail.
Right.
So it might be something that we look at a little bit harder and try to see if there's, you know, other ways to approach a few things.
Sounds reasonable. All right.
Man, oh man. Who is using silicon like crazy?
Everybody trying to put down solar panels.
Yeah.
It's always this. It's like these days, I don't know, maybe it's just the value maybe of having that power adjacent to your headquarters, but there's almost always a spike in silicon in particular. Early in the game these days. Like just right around this time period as everybody tries to get into solar panels. The games where that doesn't happen, it's basically just because there were enough geotherms available for a lot of people. But oh, and this guy boosted his solar panels. Shoot, Niven's going to be terrifying. I didn't see that's where the boost was. He got into those very early.
Yeah, you can see the price of energy is dropping.
Oh, like crazy, just because he boosted it like that.
As long as Clark... You should... I don't know.
I should not have my tiles that are almost mine auctioned off is what I should.
I agree. I agree. Like, something that we've talked about is like... Or at least my opinion is that anything that is within, like, 2 spaces of your colony, it shouldn't get auctioned.
Right.
It's just such a depressing moment when that happens. It's like, oh, really?
Is. I would be okay with that change, personally. You know, just...
It's rough when that happens.
It's very rough.
Because you're like, well, I pretty much have to buy that.
Yep, it's true. Which might suck a little bit if you're trying to make a little bit of money on power or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Oh, okay. Everybody's boosting themselves right now. Well, it shouldn't be any real surprise. I'm just concerned about Niven at the moment, though. Seems like he's going to run away with things very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Have you hit him with anything yet, or no?
Nope. I don't have the money for that. I was the last found. I didn't get my spot. And then this guy, then Herbert goes and ruins my game, basically, by just throwing down food. And I've been experimenting with things this game, if I'm honest. Which maybe I shouldn't have done. So that's okay.
Yeah, Niven is...
He's looking scary. Right, he's HQ 5. I'm back here on HQ 2 right now.
But hey, you have a AAA rating.
That's true, I do. I have a really good rating.
Right.
I have a really, really good rating. And also a lot of people got out of farms, so at least my food is worth something now.
Yeah.
New patent up for auction. Bidding will begin at
1,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 12.
I don't know if that's really worth it.
It's hard to say. I mean, 25% cut. Obviously, that's not a lot right now.
No,
right?
Not many people have debt.
Herbert has 90,000 debt, which I guess is the biggest impact. Because Herbert has 90,000, and a lot of other people don't have very much at all. It's hard to say exactly how much it should be worth. Okay, that's helpful. That's not. Niven's just so terrifying. I'm not going to attack him at all because I'm so far behind. Leave that to everybody else. They can deal with it.
Yeah, the black market can be like a big money sink as well. That's something that Dorian does a lot. Like, he'll end up spending like an insane amount of money just attacking people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, sometimes it's a brilliant idea. Sometimes maybe you should have just let that one go, you know? It's just...
Yeah.
It just kind of depends. Alright, well, maybe for this then. Where can I actually do this? That's helpful. Basically nowhere. Fine. Oh, wait. That's like almost usable, I guess. But not quite. Just so awkward. Just do that. Niven's halfway to buying me. It's a little bit terrifying.
Scientific colony expanded.
Yeah, that is not a good situation.
No, not particularly. I don't want to get bought. It sounds bad.
Herbert is just dropping.
Oh, Herbert's debt is ridiculous. Which means he's probably Game Slayer.
So, another thing that we played with internally that was pretty funny was inheriting other people's debt when you bought them.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm always just sitting here going, I don't like that, because the punishment for having debt is you can't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, or you can't, sorry, the punishment for having debt is people can buy you, not that you can't do anything. People can't buy you if you have debt. So if suddenly you make it so that people can't buy you, sorry, people can buy you easily. I'm having trouble getting words out. If suddenly you make it so people can't buy you because your debt's too high, because it would kill them too. It creates a very awkward scenario. It's like, what's the punishment for having debt? You just make yourself a bomb for anybody who's attacking you.
Right.
And it all gets pretty ridiculous pretty quickly. Speaking of ridiculous, there are very ridiculous things happening right now.
Yes. I agree. This is a weird game.
This is a weird game. This is a really weird game. And I finally made it to HQ level 4. Oh yeah.
Well, if you can hang on.
I know, if I can hang on, maybe it's okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected.
What's that?
Day comes, and the entire map is just adrenaline boost, adrenaline boost, adrenaline boost, adrenaline boost, the whole time. That's all it is, all of a sudden, when day gets here, because everybody noticed, and everybody was like, alright, we gotta do something about that.
I got hit. That's not fun.
No, sad for you.
Oh my god. I tried to EMP Niven, and I did it on something he had goon squatted. That's sad.
I finally got hit by an EMP. It took long enough.
I think he's probably gonna win.
Niven?
Yeah.
Well, after he got that easy buy on Gameslayer, yeah. I was trying to push to that, but I couldn't quite pull it off with that EMP. I should really be using my claims. I have 9 of them right now. That's not good.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna matter at this point. Oh, and there we go again.
No, it probably doesn't matter, but I can pretend it does at least. I don't know. You can try. Try and get something done.
Yeah, Niven was just
running away with the whole thing very easily and quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, like, I'm curious to know what you think about, so when somebody, like, it seems like the first person to buy somebody out, a lot of times is the one that wins the game.
A lot of times.
And we're trying to figure out ways to make that not be the case. Just because the whole snowball effect becomes pretty extreme. Like, in this case, like, Niven was already doing well, he bought somebody that was cheap, and then it's like, okay, it's kind of impossible to catch him at this point. And then you end up with a, you know, a game that's essentially over, but not over.
That is a difficulty. I wonder if it would be worthwhile doing something like increasing black market cooldowns for larger corporations.
Yeah, we're sort of playing around with some ideas with what a buyout actually does and what it means.
Right.
And what you get from it. Because right now, I mean, the thing that happens right now is you get their entire colony and infrastructure.
Right.
Which is cool, but, like, for me, like, when I look at it, I'm like, you know, that would be sort of like if you were playing, you know, StarCraft, and you took your army into someone else's base, you destroyed all their stuff, and all of a sudden you got their whole army.
Yeah.
Right? And that's pretty powerful, if that was the case.
Right. Do you think it should instead do something like... I'm trying to think of how to put this. Like, give you... Do you want them to keep their claims? Do you want to maybe just take back all those claims for the new colony? I mean, what ideas are you guys throwing around in that area?
So one of the things that we're playing with, and just seeing how it works, is like buying somebody out and then sort of liquidating their whole colony so it's not on the map anymore.
Right.
And then giving claims based on what level they were when the buyout happened.
Right. Just that, though.
Yeah, so just that. So, like, if you buy somebody out that's level 5, you would get 5 claims. If you buy somebody else level 4, you get 4. You know, so on and so forth.
Interesting.
And the funny thing about it is, like, having played with it that way, it's actually
Your stock is being
pretty fun
Yeah.
because it knocks the snowballing down a little bit, but not as much as you would think. Because when you buy someone else's colony currently, it's sort of like a whole other set of things to manage.
Right.
So it can be kind of challenging to like even figure out what the person was doing and what they have going on and what their infrastructure is. And a lot of times you end up deleting half their buildings and rebuilding them, which takes time and money. And it's sort of I don't know, it kind of streamlines some of the game to have it work the other way that we're sort of playing with. So we will see.
Well, I'm basically guaranteed dead. Terry made sure of that.
What happened?
Oh, Terry, right before he died to Niven, just bought up all my stock. Half my stock, I guess. So that guarantees my death, which is just kind of awkward. But which I think one of the things Soren was talking about could help prevent that sort of situation. This idea of once you own a certain amount of stock, rather than having to go the full 10, it's like 6.
Yeah.
Would help out with that, but... Well, my food's making money now.
Yeah, I've totally like spaced because I'm like talking.
I know, and like the game is completely over, so
yeah.
What's the point? At this point is almost my idea. Just because Niven ran away with it so hard and nobody did a single thing about it, and then he also managed to push that buy on Game Slayer, which I should have focused on getting instead of whatever else I was doing. I just didn't realize he was going to flame out that hard.
Yeah, there is sort of that mechanic in the game, like having somebody else buy your stock out while you're buying, you know, while somebody else is getting ready to buy you. It's sort of weird because it does essentially mean like it's almost like a 2-for-1 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, that's something that I'm not really sure how to do anything about that, but yeah, it's something that we're aware of, at least. It's
a very strange thing, this idea of maybe that game I could have put up a fight with Niven. I maybe could have done something if I had gotten to the buy on you, right?
Right.
But then Terry comes out of nowhere and just buys up the other half of my stock. And it's like, I don't... And then there's nothing I can do because it just puts Niven that much more in the lead.
Right. I'm making myself very viable right now.
Yes, because the game is completely over, and so
yeah,
may as well just quit out at this point while Blues finishes it up.
There we go. Yeah, so that's an issue that we ran into in the office. We were playing a game one day, and there were 3 of us playing.
Mm-hmm.
It was myself, Dorian, and Zach. And what happened was we were all doing pretty well, and then Dorian started buying my stock. And in response to that, I started buying Zach's stock. And Zach was like, "Why are you buying me?" And I was like, "Well, because you're cheaper than Dorian. And if I try to race Dorian, he's still going to buy me, and then he's going to own himself."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, by..." And then he's like, "Well, by buying me, he's going to own both of us." And I was like, "Yeah, then the game's over." And it's like,
true.
It's sort of that... It's a weird problem because you can ruin someone else's game by buying them while you're being bought. And I feel like traditionally in the online communities, like griefing becomes a problem in just about every game. So we're trying to figure out ways to like make that not be possible.
Yeah. It's difficult to do in those bigger games in particular. What's part of why I'm so interested in 2v2 though is this idea of you've only got 2 teams, right? It's a lot less likely that somebody is going to do something horrible to their own teammate.
Right.
It still happens, but it's less likely. And you still have that impact of having 4 players on the board, you know? So you don't end up with as many strange situations, potentially, depending on exactly how all the mechanics are sorted out in those team matches.
Right. Yeah, I think the team matches have a lot of potential. Like, I'm actually most excited about that. I like team games a lot. Like, I'm a big fan of MOBAs and stuff like that, so